Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar. I'm thrilled to see so many familiar faces here today. Let's start with a quick introduction. IWA. IWA represents the companies in the flexible workspace industry, and its objective is to advocate the industry's concerns and put forth demands to the key stakeholders. Today's webinar will be moderated by Mr. Amit Ramani, founder and CEO of Awfis. Amit is also the vice president of IWA. Amit started Awfis in 2015 with the aim to revolutionize the Indian workspace ecosystem. Since then, under his leadership, the company has grown from strength to strength and is now a fully integrated workspace solutions platform. Let me now take the opportunity to welcome and introduce our esteemed panelists, starting with Mr. Lalit Ahuja. Lalit is the CEO of ANSR Consulting Incorporation, the global leader in establishing and operating global capability centers, GCCs. Since its inception, ANSR has established over 50 GCCs, aggregating to 65,000 full-time employee positions with over 1.5 billion in capital investments. Prior to ANSR, he had led renowned organizations like NDS, News Corporation India, LG Electronics, Datamatics, and IBM. He started his career in the Indian Navy before retiring as a lieutenant commander. Welcome to the panel, Lalit. We're excited to have you with us. Next, we have Mr. Ram Chandnani. Ram is the Managing Director, Advisory and Transaction Services for CBRE. With over 25 years of experience in the real estate sector, Ram is considered a trusted advisor to various multinationals and Indian corporates. Having multidisciplinary exposure, he has worked with clients across industries and asset classes, assisting them with their reality strategies. He is an acknowledged real estate expert and is well known for his relationships with occupiers, developers, and investors across the country. Hello, Ram, and a very warm welcome to the panel. We are thrilled to have you here. Now coming to our next panelist, Captain Vinod Rajan. Vinod is a CRE professional with immense experience working with multiple firms in different domains and is currently working for a large multinational banking corporation. He is responsible for the CRE and workplace strategy for the bank. Prior to joining the corporate world, he was a captain in the Indian Army. Welcome to the panel, Vinod. We look forward to hearing your expert views. Up next, we have Major Ajay Randhawa. Ajay is the Senior VP and Group Head of FM, Corporate Real Estate, and Security Division of Sterlite Power. Prior to this, he has worked with JLL India. He has served as a Major in the Indian Army as well. Welcome to the panel, Ajay. We're excited to hear from you. Finally, last but not the least, we have Mr. Vikas Chawla. Vikas is the India Operations Director, Employee and Workplace Solution at Adobe. He is well-recognized strategic RE and FM professional with over 27 years of experience with large IT, real estate, and hospitality organizations. Welcome to the panel, Vikas. We are excited to have you here and look forward to your valuable insights on our topic. Let's start the discussion now. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you, Sumit, for the introductions. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the IWA Awfis webinar. Clearly, the India CRE market has witnessed a robust, relentless growth in the past decade. This can be attributed to the growing interest from corporate occupiers, rise of organized real estate, and infusion of institutional capital. In fact, 2019 emerged as one of the rock stars year in space leasing. 63 million square feet, which was an increase of almost 30% from 2018, was seen in 2019. This was on the back of uptake from occupiers and combined with their growing comfort with embracing flex workspaces in their overall real estate strategy. Fast forward to 2020, we were caught off guard, especially in March. Basically, the demand fell. Corporate occupiers were assessing the impact and reassessing their stance. Their focus is shifted now to lowering capex and improving flexibility. Developers, on the other hand, faced delays due to disruption of supply and labor. As we enter into the new normal with COVID, it's paramount for all real estate stakeholders on making their portfolios resilient against future uncertainties. Today, we have the honor to be in the company of seasoned experts belonging to top global corporates with an astute understanding of Indian commercial real estate. I welcome the panel, and without further ado, would love to jump into the discussion. COVID presented opportunities in terms of redefining CRE strategy and creating an optimal workspace model that is future ready while also keeping the health and well-being of employees at the center of the decisions. what does this really mean for CRE stakeholders? Let me start with Lalit. Lalit, I must congratulate you on an incredible journey of answer, a formidable, impressive portfolio across the globe. Um, so, in your experience working with clients across industries and geographies, what are the new business models that have started to emerge as a result of the pandemic to maintain business resiliency?
Thank you, Amit. Just to put this crisis in context, I think what we are seeing is truly astounding. We are in the throes of a massive paradigm shift, the likes of which we haven't seen in the known history. And I guess there's a lot of plasticity in the change that is on us, right? So on the other side of this pandemic, know that the word has changed, dramatically, the CRE word. And I guess the two sides of the change are reflective of, how companies would consume real estate, from CapEx to OpEx. We've all been talking about it, do it yourself to manage spaces, fixed costs to variable costs, from rigid manifestations to more flexible spaces. The second part is going to be more interesting, and this is about the operating model. And what it really means is, what real estate would mean to different companies. So I guess one of the big changes is going to be the fact that there is not going to be one size fit all kind of an approach, right? I mean, the work environment will mean different things to different companies or different businesses, or it's going to become a lot more purpose driven. I guess the more this pandemic goes, the more people are going to get used to working in a variety of different ways. And a lot of different myths are being busted. We are now living in a anywhere, anytime, anyone, any work kind of an economy. And therefore, the workspace is not going away. But as and when people come back, it'll have a very, very different connotation. In most cases, it's going to be a place where people go to collaborate for meetups, town halls, to soak in a company's culture, to get rooted to what a company is all about. And I guess this is a challenge for all of us in terms of how do we understand what the next normal is going to look like, and how do we align CRE strategies to the paradigms on the other side of the pandemic. And therefore, we've been looking at some of the trends or early trends that are emerging, right? For example, some of the recent statements from Sundar Pichai around how Google is going to look at the office, right? I mean, people will come back to office, but they'll not go to work. They'll go for meetups, right? They will go to get refreshed, to get rejuvenated. So an office would mean different amenities, different purpose, different fixturing, and I guess that is the kind of change I feel is going to be on the other side, right? I'm not sure if you're going to go back to desks and chairs and conference rooms. I mean, some part of it will remain, but I guess there's going to be a lot of creativity around what people do remotely, wherever they are in terms of work, and what they get accomplished when they go to the office. Thank you.
So moving on to Ram. Ram, from your vantage point of having global and local market insights as a result of your regular interactions with CRE stakeholders, how deep is the impact on the pandemic on the Indian CRE industry? And what are the key strategies being adopted to overcome the ramifications?
Thanks, Amit. I think Lalit actually covered quite a bit in the opening comment, but I think truly, if you look at the Indian economy, it continues to remain a service-oriented economy. Offshoring, outsourcing in India has been the play for India with all this growth that we've seen in India. You mentioned about the high that we came off in 2019. with the overall absorption numbers is purely because of the service-oriented economy. But as Lalit mentioned, it's not one size fits all. And the global occupiers who occupy space in India, as well as the Indian occupiers who are large offshoring, outsourcing, created these large outsourcing destinations and offshoring destinations, have literally followed what the trend has been around the world. While everyone has been fearful of getting people back into the work environment during this pandemic, they've ensured that what is important for them to keep the ball rolling. It's technology enhancements for people to work more remotely. And as rightly said, it's not easy for everyone to work remotely in India. India has its own challenges compared to the Western world. The economies are very different. Bandwidth is a big issue. People living in joint families, nuclear families, younger workforce who don't necessarily live with their parents have actually gone back to live with their parents right now, back to their hometowns. And connectivity still remains a big challenge across India. While the government has let you, from a regulatory perspective, to work remotely, I think India has a lot of moving parts. And you've got to keep in mind one of the reasons why the occupiers have offshored and outsourced to India is the availability of the quality of talent and the cost arbitrage that really a company sees. So I think these important factors will continue to remain very important from an outsourcing offshoring perspective in India. As we all know it globally, it's very easier to work more remotely outside of India compared to work in India, and people will be task oriented while they get back to work. People will come to collaborate to work. The model is changing. And as you see going forward, that balancing of a true hybrid model will settle down post what happens with the vaccine, no vaccine. I would say pre-vaccine era, post-vaccine era, how successful we're going to be and how quickly this pandemic really goes away. We're already seeing second waves of the viral in other parts of Europe, etc., which are gaining concerns for people to meet socially. While the Indian economy can't afford to remain locked, and if you've already heard, and I'm sure all of you have heard, the younger workforce, it's not very easy for them to work remotely. So you will see people coming back. The question is what percentage of people will come back now versus what will happen post the vaccine area. We're already seeing corporates really, while everyone said we've been as productive as possible, 100% productivity, the reality that productivity is starting to drop. And we recently conducted a global survey with large CRE leaders around the world. And the feedback is we will come to a balancing model. The model will have to align with every organization's core business functions. And you will come up with a model for yourself. And that's yet to be seen. But from an India context, for the time being, everyone who's sitting on surplus space are revalidating, everyone's looking at their portfolio. All of those strategies are being evaluated. Cost is a big play. And of course, flex will come into the story in a big way.
Thanks, Ram. That's music to me and all the IWA members that are on the panel. So moving on to my occupier friends here, let me start with Ajay. Ajay, Sterlite Power has successfully done a lot of work around the power sector, closure of many projects despite a weak market conditions owing to COVID-19 pandemic. Being a global power transmission player, what is the magnitude of the impact for you? And what are some of the innovative CRE strategies that you're implementing going forward?
Thanks, Amit. As far as the impact of the COVID pandemic on our business is concerned, it has been a very minimal impact because our businesses are very long term. The kind of projects that we do are not, they are very well planned, very well devised. And we also saw that some of the manpower coming back on the project side a little early. So if you talk about my CRE portfolio, already is very dynamic. So the impact on me is, on Sterlite Power is quite minimal. And let me take it one by one. Let's say the plants. I have 4 plants across the country, right? And the plants started to work a little early. And as far as the real estate is concerned, it doesn't matter to me because we own the plants. Coming on to the more dynamic space, which is on my project side. Let's say in case I have 20 projects running across the country, I will typically have offices for those projects. And one project can run into 500 kilometers. So I will have slew of offices, and which are also supported by ample number of guest houses. That's where most of our manpower stays. So that has remained stable. I have continued with my relationships on that front. Now coming on to the commercial real estate. Commercial real estate is, I think I completely agree with the 2 of my speakers before. It has really gone a massive change. I take my mind back to the financial crisis, 2008, 2009. We didn't know what hit us. And for next 3 years, we didn't know what hit us. And we were still wondering as to what is required to be done. And very slowly, we started to come out of that, downturn which happened. Somewhere the real estate industry could not come back to what 2006, 2007 has been there. Of course, the effect has been quite astounding. But I think when this COVID thing hit us, I think most of us have been extremely agile and on our feet. And we've been thinking right, from day one. So our strategy within our organization has been a short-term, mid-term, and a long-term. And it is a no-brainer. I think most of us have done quite a similar kind of a thing. The first was the moment the Prime Minister came on the TV. Everything had to be shut shop, right? And that was followed till the projects and the plants. So when we came down to the stage 2, where we said okay, where the government also started to give some laxity, and they also allowed presence in the offices. We decided an X percentage that we will plan our offices for next few months on X percentage of an attendance. However, anybody who wants to come to the office needs to take certain approvals, and you need to tell me why do you want to come to office. So when I'm making the statement that why do you want to come to office is a great paradigm shift, which Lalit also spoke about. And within the same organization, about 1.5 years back, we used to say, okay, we must come to the office. We should all mingle around. We should see each other. While there was a very small FaceTime during the day. But the paradigm shift is that now we started to ask as to which are the roles which have to work from office. Because now we've tasted blood, and we know that the work from home has really worked very well for us. And when I say this, I'm backing it with a lot of data. Which has come out of our surveys. So what we did was we created a task force, people task force, and this people task force consists of 3 main verticals, which is the infrastructure, which is me, my CIO, our CIO, and the HR head, right? So it is hardware, software, and behavior, right? So these are the 3 main drivers as to how should the new workplace look like, right? And we did certain surveys. The first survey which we did right after the lockdown, we were quite surprised that less than 5% of the people wanted to work from office, right? And very rightly mentioned by you that the COVID has taken its toll. People definitely want to work from office as well. So we are calling it a very dynamic workplace policy. Dynamic workplace policy will be like this, that you work from office if you really need to work from office. And what we'll do is we will define the roles, and like some of the, like the BD team, and if my bidding is going on, they have to sit in front of a computer and they have to lock themselves up for next 48 hours, howsoever long this bidding goes on. And there are design and engineering people, they need plotters and everything. I know which are the, and some of the admin staff and the travel staff and all that. So we know we are coming to a stage, we're defining as to which are the roles which will work from office. Basis which I think it's very easy to calculate what kind of space do I need. Second pillar for dynamic workspace will be work from home, of course, and there is nothing much to be said about it. Everybody is working from home as of now. My next will be work near home, right? And work from anywhere, right? So these are the 4 pillars that we're talking about internally. And the real estate definitely is going to look very, very different from what it was before March. And I'm saying this with my own experience of the past few months. You know that we've been trying to make our office somewhere in Gurgaon, right? And we put it on hold for a while. And I think it was a blessing in disguise that we did put it on hold, because the complete real estate scenario has changed. And I definitely would now look at something which is not CapEx based, which is all CapEx based. And I have the kind of flexibility to increase, decrease, or move into other properties which could be provided to me by the managed space, the flex companies. So that's the kind of a thought that we are going ahead with. And come the third phase already started for me. And I think by 31st of December, my real estate policy for next year should be very well laid out. So that's been our experience, and we are learning by the day, right? So data which I may have presented to my organization about 2 months back does not hold good now, right? So even on 31st of December, I will have to see how many people really want to work. And I think very rightly brought out by Lalit that the workplaces will not be used for work now. They will be used for people to come and mingle and do some cultural stuff, right? So yeah, another data is that from a 5%, we've almost come down to a 47% of people now wanting to work from office. And and wait for another 2 months. I think you guys will be very happy to hear the new data.
Sure. No, absolutely. And so clearly uncertainty equals agility, and obviously everybody needs to respond to that. So Vinod, with your vast experience in CRE across multiple firms, how do you think the corporate real estate framework has changed from before? Also, what are the key considerations for large occupiers when deciding their future workplace strategy in India?
Thank you. So let's begin by asking ourselves as to what has actually changed. Okay, the pandemic hit us. What changed? I would say that we have gone into a huge work from home experience, right? Second, what has changed? There has been a profound social and technological change that has happened. All this while technology was happening, changes were happening, it was slow and steady. But today, it is galloping. The technological change, the digitization that is taking place is at a galloping pace. What else has changed? The demand for shorter product life has changed, right? Companies are looking at doing stuff by converging things. What else has changed? We are looking at Generation Z setting their foot into the office space or to the workspace. So you are looking at Generation Z coming into the workspace. Now, what is Generation Z all about? They are not stuck with one particular office or one particular company. They would like to do multiple things. And then what else has changed? So you have a workplace where you have people from Generation Z to the baby boomers. So you need to be able to cater to all these guys. What else has changed? Companies have seen that the benefit of having people working from home or people working from different locations. Companies are now looking at people who can come and work on short-term assignments. Companies are now looking at probably getting more people who are very flexible in their approach to the work, which means the bench strength is going to come down, right? What else has changed? I would say that what Osama bin Laden did to the security world, the coronavirus has done to the technological, digital, and the health and safety world. The health and safety is taking a big time impact. The CRE world or the FM world are probably stepping up their mojo. They're trying to do things better in terms of health and safety. But when people come back to office or people expectations have changed, completely changed, it has increased. So all these changes are happening. We are too, I would say we are too early to actually decide what is going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4 years. It is going to be a paradigm shift, as my stalwarts, our stalwarts before me told. It's going to be a completely change. So the CRE world also will need to change, is already changing. You're going to look at work from anywhere, hub and spoke model. You're going to look at freelancers. You're going to look at a place where the permanent employees and the freelancers can coexist. You're going to look at spaces which do not look unoccupied or empty. You're going to look at spaces where it is not too crowded. So the whole thing is going to change. The whole gamut is going to change. So I guess it is too early for us to. We are all learning now as the time goes by. But probably in a year or two, we will know exactly where we are all going. So that's my short take on this.
Thanks, Vinod. Vikas, when the pandemic hit, right, Adobe quickly transitioned to work from home with its over 22,000 employees globally. Since then, what are the steps the company has taken to transition the workforce back to the workplace? And what is the workspace model going to look like in the future?
So thank you, Amit. So since the pandemic hit, I believe technology companies are the ones which have not taken the lead, and then they are very mindful of how they react or respond to the changing and evolving scenarios with each passing month and week, what we are observing. So what we have seen in the technology domain is the companies are not very eager or in any sort of hurry to come back, because they have had the most productive of the quarters and the results have been favoring them, and they have got that kind of traction from the business as well as the employees, the ones who are working from home. So there is no reason for them to take a hurried decision. But yes, they are mindful as to how the future course would be looking at and how they need to strategize moving forward. Having said that, since most of the companies are in the growth stage or in the expansion mode, when we talk about the Indian context, so they are not too bothered about now looking at maybe optimizing the portfolio or working at taking some extra portfolio to cater to the needs. They are in a wait and watch mode. And I believe that will continue for the short to a medium term. When I say a short to a medium term, it is say around 12 to 18 months. Because as of now, what we are seeing is it's only the speculations what we are getting that this is a scenario today, it might change after the vaccine comes. Yes, all of us are making ourselves future proof, but then do we have a solid solution or any given scenario which will fit all of us? I'm afraid none of us have that. So we are only speculating, but yes, planning is an integral part and we all need to be tuned in times. And then there is also a thought that if this is going to continue for long, which will be because we have seen the efficiencies of a virtual mode of working, which my friends also on the panel highlighted very aptly. So it is not going to be a fully physical or on-premise work model, which we'll see in the future. There is going to be a blended model or a hybrid model, as we call it. But to what percentage will depend upon industry to industry, organization to organization. So the real estate will be impacted in the medium to a short term. But what I feel is the requirement of the flexible spaces also will increase. Why it will increase is because people, rather than coming to work, they would also look at some touchdown locations where they can collaborate. I need to go back to the office all the way? What is it I'm achieving that? Those kind of things. And then even if the people who are required to come to office, they might be coming only for about 2 to 3 days in a week. So we will see this model being transitioned. Yes, there will be a churn and we will see a few of the stakeholders or the components of the industry benefiting from them. Few will be taking the brunt of that. But having said that, let's embrace it together. We are all in it. Let's be measured in our approach. Let's be mindful of what the industry expects from us, and let's move in a fashion where we feel we will be more or less able to cater to the requirements and needs which will evolve in the future days. So that's my stand, Amit.
Thanks, Vikas. So that's a great segue into the next section. So flex workspace industry obviously emerged as a viable option for corporates today seeking cost optimization, flexibility, agility, business resiliency, offering somewhat innovative ways of making distributed workspace a reality, which everybody spoke about. A hybrid model, work near home, was also suggested by the esteemed panelists. So Ram, from a portfolio strategy perspective, will flex and remote working solutions form a critical component of CRE occupiers in the short term or the long term? Also, do you see demand for flex workspace emerging in tier 2 and 3 cities?
Thanks, Sumit. It's a great question. Um, as I did touch upon earlier, occupiers are going through the dilemma and strategizing, and the decision on remote working is a big question for all of them. And again, depends on how matured the organization has been to take those decisions going forward. As I think one of you mentioned, that this has been an experiment of future forwarding what was planned. And we actually predicted this in one of our research reports last year, saying work from anywhere will be a policy in 2000 by 2013. This was in one of our reports. But that's obviously dramatically moved forward, and we've gone through this crazy experiment right now. But the occupier community will balance for it, right? Vikas did mention about cost. Vinod spoke about cost. Everyone's spoken about cost. So it will depend from organization to organization. Flex in the immediate short term for organizations who want to create a hybrid model of sorts, where it's not just coming to one headquarter location, and depends on organization to organization. There's nothing called BCP anymore. It's BCP. The definition of BCP is dramatically changed. So it will dramatically change going forward from a decision making. There have been conversations about, can I look at urban versus suburban? And you can't compare New York to Bangalore. Of course, you can compare the traffic, but can you say, can I just move all my people to go work in New Jersey and rather coming into Manhattan to work? Very different comparisons, right? So no doubt from an India context, the C-suite is now evaluating, saying, how does the business really function? What am I doing to really take from a cloud perspective that can be done where people don't have to physically run their businesses in a location? Can they run it more virtually? And then the strategy and the balance will come back. If you're a delivery center, KPO, the strategy could be very different from a software development scenario. If you're an R&D organization, then the scenarios are very different. So it will depend whether you're in the financial services sector, the insurance sector, and the level of automation that we are seeing enhance in the last few months and going forward will really look at our businesses very differently in the next 5 years. But no doubt from an India perspective, you will see in the immediate to short term where occupiers will look at their portfolios very differently. Guys who are sitting on surplus space will evaluate whether they really need that surplus space because it's not been occupied. Certain businesses can't afford to continue to pay rents, etc. And there will be a reset. So every occupier is going through their portfolio decision strategies as we speak. Decisions on flex are taking place. And for the last few months, because people haven't been able to travel, decisions also haven't taken place. But we're starting to see organizations take those decisions on getting more short-term fixes. If you look at it, initially the boom on flex was, I need a short-term fix because I'm growing till I go and consolidate or expand my future growth. This is now looking at more a permanent solution where I need a touchdown location, or I need to cater to my employees who've gone back to their hometowns because of connectivity issues where they can't work from home. And they would want technical assistance or an office to really go and work in those tier 2, tier 3 cities. So the evolution of portfolio strategies is going to take place. And the CRE and the business leaders are really recalibrating that decision making. between now and for sure post the vaccine era. But every organization is going to look at remote working strategies of between 15 to 30% depending on organization going forward. And that balance we will get to know for sure in the next year or so. But tier 2, tier 3 in India will pick up, and the opportunity for flex, because the corporates do not want to necessarily go there. And obviously to get compliant buildings also is a big important thing. The corporates do not want to risk their employees to go into a non-compliant building. So some of these factors will have to be evaluated, and operators like yourself will have to cater to those solutions and provide those solutions, because they may not be long-term commitments of 5 years, etc. They would be more shorter term, 1 to 3 years. So that's my take.
No. Thanks, Ram. So Lalit, in the near future, the demand for satellite offices will certainly increase, as many enterprises are now looking at distributing their workforce instead of bringing them to a central location. So what are your thoughts on this? And then do you think that this means distributed workspace model is here to stay?
Thanks, Amit. And I think that's a very interesting question. And I think the idea has some legs. But again, I would forewarn that we don't overgeneralize, the whole concept. What we've seen over the past few years has been maturation of the central office, right? So an office, the central office has evolved to be a more holistic environment where business outcomes were being influenced, where there was a way to engage employees, creating an inspiring, engaging, immersive and an experiential environment, right? And much of it was also coming into flex spaces where there was some level of customization that was being provided. I guess if the purpose is to provide a robust infrastructure for sustained productivity for employees, internet, air conditioning, distraction-free, ergonomically engineered environment, the satellite offices obviously will, play an important role. But let's also not forget the fact that this pandemic has gone on for long, and there are two very clear trends out there in the market. One, of course, the employees are now investing in making their homes a lot more conducive to work, right? So early days in March, April, May, we all spoke about the fact that how can you work out of home? But there have been investments that people have been making because, this is here to stay for the foreseeable future. The second is around the fact that a number of employers are now investing in providing, work infrastructure to employees at home. Some part of it is driven by competitive considerations. Some part of it is just to ensure that there's sustained level of productivity, right? Which means you get a desk, you get a chair, you get a monitor arm, you get a monitor. So a lot of companies are making these investments, and there is a very easy justification for the investments that companies are making. I mean, think about the fact that if a company cafeteria is shut, that's 25,000 rupees saving at the very minimum per employee per year for a company. If the company or if the employees are not using transportation, a company is possibly saving 3 to 3.5 lakhs per employee annually, right? Of course, you're using less electricity because air conditioning is not working, and there are less security guards and less FM services. And that's obviously, resulting in 5 to 6 lakh savings annually per employee. And some part of it is being diverted to homes, right? So one of the competitions for this concept is going to be the home itself, right? There's another concept, which is, if you look at the number of employees who left their office locations, went back to wherever they came from, it's a very high 20-25% that have still not come back, right? So if somebody was working in Bangalore, but parents were in Calcutta, they still continue to be in Calcutta, right? And so when we talk about, a near home kind of a fixture, flex fixture, now you have to think about Indore and Raipur and Allahabad and, Kolkata, and not just, a satellite place in Bangalore, right? So the point I'm trying to make is the fact that once again, it really depends upon the company, the type of job, and ultimately the evolving concept of what an office would look like, right? The good news for all of us is the fact that the office is not going away, right? In fact, we are seeing the per capita consumption of real estate is actually going up anywhere from 15 to 25%. You need bigger conference rooms, in purely for respect for social distancing. There's got to be a lot less density now in terms of how the workstations are sort of configured in office spaces and so on, right? So it all depends upon the role the workspace would play in future, and therefore would it make sense for employers to provide, satellite near home locations for sustained productivity in situations where the employees don't have the benefit of certain companies that are actually investing in providing a consistent experience, whether it's at office or it is at home. I want to make one final point. I mean, we are now coming across customers, and as they're building their future CRE strategies, are also mindful of the fact that they need to cater for provisioning of work, a formal office space, but they're also investing in working from anywhere infrastructure, right? So some part of the investment is actually going to retrofit employee homes, given the fact that there are savings, elsewhere, right? So, so I think, again, it really depends upon the situation, and maybe, again, here there's no one size fit all kind of an approach. Thank you.
Sure. So Vikas, Lalit kind of alluded to this, that people are obviously, a large portion of the workforce has migrated to their hometowns, right? What has been the company's strategy in operating going forward? Are you looking at adopting remote working on a permanent basis, or adopting a hybrid model for work from home and work near home, and then having a centralized locations? Any thoughts on that?
So Amit, a good question. So there are discussions going on those aspects, because we feel that the canvas will change. Okay, there is bound to be, because when you see efficiencies in a particular model, and like now one of my friends mentioned that once you taste blood, then you like to now go to that path, that if there are some efficiencies and optimizations which can be achieved through that route, why not do that? To what extent it will happen, nobody knows. We are still figuring out. But then I'm sure now, if you all have gone through the Gartner study, which now did survey across sectors, most of the organizational and the HR heads have conclusively come to a decision that at least 20% of their workforce, which was 20% is on the workforce, which was coming to office earlier, can be permitted to work remotely in a future scenario also, after everything comes back to normal. So 20% is, you can say, by and large, being a given that it will have an impact. Now, having said that, what are the kind of challenges you will face as we move forward? Because today we are all saying that productivity is good, we are doing well, but let's also understand that man is a social animal, and the avenues to socialize are closed today. There are no cinemas, there are no restaurants, there are no malls, There's no way you can go. You're also avoiding going to any big, large social gatherings. At best, you are going visiting your family and very close friends. So once it comes back to normal, how the productivity is going to pan out in those scenarios. So the organizations are mindful of that. So they want to have a mix where, when I say a 20% scenario, maybe the organizations which did not have a work from home culture or a concept already as part of their mainframe, they are adopting that practice, maybe permitting employees to work one day for sure of a week without having to seek any approvals or any permissions. But yes, how will we now come to a scenario of building an office space? We are looking at today to create more collaborative spaces, more touchdown spaces, so that the people who are not part of the system, even if they were to come to our offices and spend some time, they should get those kind of spaces which are available to them to collaborate, to network. If we were designing earlier a facility for a 2,500 seater, we are looking at, is 2,500 the right number, or shall I look at now revising it to a 1,800 to a 2,000 without now doing away with the total area which I'm occupying. So those are the kind of trends and practices which organizations are adopting. And I'm sure now work from home will be there in certain percentage or a form. It will depend upon sector to sector and organization to organization what suits them as well.
Sure. So, Ajay, do you see remote working continuing long after pandemic is over as well for your company? And how do you see the existing centralized office being utilized in that case? I think all of you briefly alluded to it, so would love to get your views on that.
Yeah, I think most of it has already been covered by my friends on the panel. As far as we are concerned in Sterlite, we are very, very certain that an X percentage, and as of now, the percentage that we are considering is around 30%, that 30% of workforce will keep working from homes. And if that be so, we are reaching out to them, and we are taking technology to their homes. We are also talking about ergonomics to be provided, to them. And there is all the admin and the facility management staff, which is always there, perhaps to pick up a courier or something. So, as far as the sensitivity is concerned, to maintain the productivity of the people, whatever support which is required to be given by the organization, all the teams have stood by them. But yes, definitely going forward, if I have to do my numbers, like I said earlier, we are very, very certain how it is going to be for us. While we are waiting and watching for some numbers here and there, but we definitely are going to work out of flexi spaces. And when it comes to, let's say, planning my corporate offices and all, yeah, some corporate offices will not move, some corporate offices will move, some will be bifurcated into a marquee office, something will be a managed space, a satellite space. So we are going to actually go towards people. And even after, when we come back after COVID, we now do not want somebody from Noida to keep driving down to Gurgaon because that's my marquee office, right? So we are considering that certain percentage of people will keep working from home, certain percentage of people will work near home, right? Like most of my colleagues. Now, as far as the usage of the existing office is concerned, I think I will just repeat myself that it will only be role-based. Maybe the HR can come back to us that on a certain date they want to do some OD activities or something, but and maybe on a certain date one particular business unit wants to get there. But we definitely will be using a lot of technology for coming to the office and for the usage of the offices.
Great, thanks, Ajay. Vinod, so with de-densification being the key to safe and secure spaces now, how are large companies planning to manage their employee base and their workspace requirement in the short term and long term? Also, from BFSI perspective, how feasible are flex space solutions given the strict HSE data and building infrastructure compliances?
Absolutely. So the concern for us here is data security, information security, and also from the point of view of government rules and regulations, especially if you're occupying an SEZ space, right? Now, SEZ space occupation is given to the company because they are believed to bring in that kind of investment in that space, and the government gets some returns out of it, right? Whatever it is. But today you're asking people to work from anywhere and any place, and we're asking people to work from home also. So that regulation rule will undergo a change. Now, as far as data security and information security is concerned, as I said, digitalization and innovation and technological improvements will force people to actually, or companies to actually look at making their security parameters more stronger and more agile. So people probably, or companies probably can utilize flexible spaces or spaces outside their comfort zone, right? That's for sure. And builders and top builders or class A builders or class A providers will certainly also redefine their model, the way they're going to operate, or they're going to give up space to these companies. That's certainly going to happen. But the problem here is that, you know, when we went into work from home, not now, before the pandemic, the reason was we wanted to give people that much time to get rid of not commuting. Right, we didn't want people to get bogged down with this daily commute of 4 hours or 5 hours every day. So we said, okay, let's give them one day work from home, at least give them that kind of a piece. But today, what has happened is we are forced to work from home. Now, people are looking to come back to office. We're all social beings. We want to be with our teams. We want to be with our people. We want to have a cup of chai, right? We don't want to get boxed down. And also, our infrastructure at home is not so very conducive to working from home continuously. And no matter what we do in terms of providing that kind of a physical infrastructure to the people, our homes are not designed for it. I'm talking about majority of the people, okay? And also the fact that, you know, there are going to be huge psychological and physiological challenges that are going to be posed to the companies, so people are going to get affected by that. So that needs to be addressed. Thirdly, there are other things like, you know, deep onboarding of people. How are you going to do it? You need to improve your technology. You want to make it more easy and smooth for these people who are going to be onboarded into the company. The other thing, L&D, learning and development. How are you going to manage that if you are going to have 70% work from home or 80% work from home? So all these aspects have to be considered while you give up space, or you want to make changes to the existing space, or you want to redesign your space. So all these factors, the HR factor, the physiological, psychological factor, the learning and development factor, the nature of job that is going to be performed by these companies, the nature, as I said earlier, we are looking at people who are going to come and do short-term work on projects and then just vanish. At the same time, there is going to be these full-time employees also. So all these things will put together, and the data security and the information security that needs to be upgraded and made world-class to ensure that there are no hiccups that happen. All this will change, and it's already in the process of changing. It's a matter of a few more years, and we will probably be at a different level altogether, I guess.
Sure. Thanks, Vinod. Moving on to the last section, we are just about a few minutes left, and I do want to leave some time for questions, as we have almost a large participant group here as well. So the emergence of REIT, right, has been a great for developers to unlock their value in the commercial assets, along with liquidity and greater geographic and sector diversification for investors. In fact, Brookfield recently proposed to launch its REITs issue amid this pandemic. So Lalit, starting with you, what according to you are primary reasons for the resounding success of REITs in India?
I think much of it is driven by how REITs have succeeded in some of the more developed economies. I mean, if you look at US alone, $3 trillion in REIT assets, almost 500,000 properties. I mean, if you look at listed equity-based listed REITs alone, $2 trillion with the market cap of, of $1 trillion, right? So there's been a huge unlocking of value, and REITs have represented, progressive corporatization of, an industry that was known for lack of transparency and was fragmented. In some ways, think about the four important stakeholders coming together, right? So the investors or the PEs, the developers, the tenants, and of course the general public at large. In some ways, a crude analogy is, investing in gold versus, the gold ETFs or the gold funds. So the REITs have demonstrated, a way for investors to, put their money in a diversified portfolio of high quality, real estate assets. There's a lot more transparency. It's regulated by SEBI. You have dividend-based investment. There's risk mitigation because of how REITs ultimately are structured, and their obligation to provide sustained dividend-based income to the investor. So I guess it's giving a form and structure to an industry which was massive, but was missing some of these essential elements. So we've picked up pieces of what has worked in different parts of the world and created a very unique success story in India as well.
Sure, thanks, Lalit. Vikas, Adobe is one of the few large global occupiers in India who prefer to own their buildings, right? With the emergence of REITs in India, do you see any shift in strategy at Adobe and for X sales and leaseback transactions, etc.?
Nothing for that moment, Amit. We should also understand now that the way these organizations functions, there is also now some limitations. The way the funds which are, or the profit which is generated in India, they cannot take it back outside the country. So then how does it work? It serves them well to be now investing in their own campuses rather than not paying those regular outflow of money. So most of the large technology companies you see now are having their own campuses, and the few big ones which never had it, they are also on the path of it. Last year, we saw Amazon now building up its own campus in Hyderabad. Google has already started the process. Microsoft has its own campus in Hyderabad. So more and more technology companies are looking towards that path. But yes, as Lalit rightly said, now that is a platform for individuals who were not big time investors, could not afford that kind of investment. Even small investors are able to plow their funds in real estate, a commercial real estate, in a safe and secure manner. So I feel that will be a big thing. And since this concept has been working well in the western part of the world, we all know in the US it started in the 1960s, and then it's now matured over the last 50 to 60 years. In India, the concept is very new, but I'm sure with each now passing year, it will mature, and we will have more and more players coming to come on the bandwagon and create that kind of experience for themselves and get value out of it. And I'm sure it's a win-win scenario for all the investors, the developers, and the people which are looking for now creating that kind of funds to put back into the business.
Great, thanks, Vikas. Ram, so the Indian REIT market is expected to grow to about 22 to 40 billion over the next few years, right? What role will this growth play in boosting the CRE industry? And then with tenant business and liquidity being affected, do you think REITs will continue to be a safe bet?
I totally agree that the REITs will continue to play an important role. One, the portfolio that, if you look at it, how are developers really funding their projects, right? Prior to institutional capital being available, they were going to investors to sell strata. And on plan, they would go ahead and say, hey, I'm building a project. Would you guys want to invest? They go to their investors, and that really gave them the funding. As you saw institutional capital coming into the commercial real estate sector, it gave the opportunity for developers to create income generating assets. Obviously, for some of the developers, it has created some huge leverage in terms of debt. And today, some of them are in the process of selling out some of these and churning their portfolio and wanting to build future commercial rent yielding portfolios. I think it has done well, one, to create a lifeline of funding coming through for them to churn their portfolios, reduce debt in these times, and also look at saying, how can I take the business to the next level of building out new product which is planned for and infusing capital. Secondly, for a smaller investor who's typically bought 5,000-10,000 square feet offices and invested, it gives him an institutional portfolio, which is great. And from an occupier perspective, rather than dealing with multiple landlords, and there are developers who control strata and manage it on behalf of their investors, I think it's a great opportunity for the occupier today, saying I don't have to deal with those investors if the developer backed out. And in some cases, we've seen developers who built buildings, sold buildings and strata and forgot about managing it and left it to the investors. So I think it's worked out for pretty much everyone, with creating a lot more institutional play into the real estate sector. And Lalit, in his opening note, said that brought in transparency into the business. You're getting product to be managed professionally that would have been strata and sold off and not necessarily managed professionally. You're also getting a landlord who will continue to invest in the product, invest in the building to make sure in times like these, those safety mechanisms are put in place from an occupier perspective. And then when you have an institutional play, you as an occupier benefit, saying, I can do a multi-city location strategy as a partner if I had a multi-location strategy with the institutional player. So there are different benefits for the landowners eventually who turn around their portfolio, the institutional player, the investor, and the occupier. And REITs obviously have done very well. It's a great vehicle, and it's a great opportunity for developers to continue to churn their portfolio and create wealth. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. And the REITs are here to stay, and the commercial business is here to stay. So, and it's not just the office sector. You've seen hotel REITs, you've seen industrial REITs, retail REITs. So it's a combination across asset classes, co-living, student housing. So it's pretty much across sectors.
Sure. So thanks, Ram. And I know we are almost out of time, and I want to do a few questions, but I just want to get quick views from Ajay and Vinod as well. So Ajay, given that most of the large developers have already launched their own REIT or partnered with global funds, do you feel that there's flexibility still remaining in the deal structuring, or is it diminishing? Ajay, you're on mute.
So the more the market gets regulated, the more is the transparency, right? And I think we've seen from last two recent IPOs, the way they have been oversubscribed. I agree with Ram that REIT is here to stay. And with more transparency coming in, I think the people's trust over this hugely unregulated space will keep rising. And the more it keeps rising, I think people will start looking at this vehicle as an investment vehicle. Quite simply, like you always needed a large ticket to get into a real estate. I mean, look at that millennial who would not like to buy a house. He may buy a house, but he doesn't want to buy a house now. He says, why should I invest in a house? However, if this gives him an opportunity to get some stocks or something, so definitely you will see some interest coming in from the millennials, as well. So I think this is a win-win situation, and there is a lot of flexibility at every level, and this definitely roots very well for the real estate industry.
Thank you, Ajay. Finally, quickly, Vinod.
Sorry to interrupt, but your question about flexibility when you negotiate, and there can be challenges when you're institutional on negotiations, right? Because a lot of times the board decides on a certain rate that you should lease, etc. And you could have some of those challenges, and that's why you need people like us.
Absolutely, we always need people like, like you, Ram.
Absolutely, Ram, couldn't agree with that. Both. Absolutely.
So I was waiting. When is he going to say that?
Yeah. So Vinod, with the current tenant churn and business liquidity issues, do you think the preference for corporate occupiers should be to grow and consolidate with large, stable, pan-India global developers moving forward?
I think people in the financial services sector or the information technology sector or the pure IT technology or media tech companies, I think the consolidation is there to stay. We probably would consolidate the major part of their portfolio with a pan-India developer or global developer because of the word that you use, stability. And stability also includes financial stability. And it also includes the fact that they'll be able to cater to our demands the way we want to in the near future or in the far future. Right, one is that. But when it comes to a hub model, if you're looking at some spaces that we want to take on a temporary basis in different locations, I mean, I'm sure these companies are going to look at good, flexible office service providers for that. So, and also today the BCP is no longer a BCP that you need to have multiple offices in multiple cities to cater for it. And especially if your data center is outsourced, you can just pack your laptop and go back home and start working from there, right? So I guess we will still be there with the large stable pan-India global developers for the major part of the portfolio.
So great, guys. I think hybrid is here to stay. Flex is going to grow, and REITs are a great thing for the country. So with that, I'll hand it over to Sumit to address a few Q&As that have come through our participants.
Thank you, gentlemen, for a very insightful and interesting session. I'll quickly address a couple of questions. The first one, Vinod, for you. What will BFSI occupiers prefer or more, work from home or flex office solutions? Between these two, if BFSI occupiers have to choose, what will that be?
It's, I mean, you can't have a simple, straightforward answer for it. It is going to be a lot of things that will be used to make a call on this. But yes, the work from home is there to stay. Whether it's going to be 10%, 20%, or 30% depends upon the maturity of the company, depends upon the various factors of psychological and physical factors that people will undergo. And it'll also depend upon various other factors, right? So, but it'll be a mix, certainly. Work from home, flexible, and you're going to still have your own major portfolio in consolidated one building or two buildings. That's for sure.
Got it. So Lalit, there's a question for you. It says, do you see an increase in insourcing versus outsourcing impacting decisions of CRE occupiers to set up business in India?
So the answer is yes, because GCCs or global companies use work environment as a way of bringing their culture and brand and values and business and customers to life. So office is more than an office, and it's used to create those experiences for the employees. So I guess with increased outsourcing, we'll see increasing uptake from a real estate perspective.
Got it. Vikas, there's a question around that for product technology companies where collaboration and innovation are key, how feasible is remote working?
Again, Sumit, the last part, how feasible is it to?
How feasible is remote working?
So exactly what we feel in our part is that there has to be some design thinking space to ideate or have those ideas being created. Innovation spaces have to be there. But yes, we are looking at ways and means how it is being done in the virtual world, and there are certain tools being created. The companies are working on that. And the future, yes, it will not be fully physical, but yes, we are looking at means. Given a scenario that there is a critical project or some path-breaking technology, it will be better that all of them are there in the same room collaborating together. But yes, as the world is moving on, we are adapting ourselves to the new scenarios, and there are tools being created to facilitate that. So it will change in the future moving forward.
Got it. I'll just ask the last question. Ajay Ram, please give the top criteria for a CRE occupiers to select a flex office solution provider.
I think if I can take it before Ram, I think the first is how flexible are they, right? As far as their investments are concerned, and I'll take it in 2-3 ways. One is where all are they present across the country? So one is their geographical spread. Second, definitely is what is their appetite to take on the capex. right? And third definitely is their relationship with the developers, because we now do not want to go to a developer. I do not want to go to a facility management company, and I do not want to talk to a developer separately to develop my office. So definitely it also depends upon how good are their various technological platforms. What is it that they bring to table when it comes to looking after my employees? It is not only about giving me good tools on facility management. It is also about how will you keep my people engaged, and also what are the class of services that you bring onto the office.
Got it.
Some of these things are going to play a very, very important role.
Sumit, from an occupier's perspective, it really depends on the business the occupier is operating under, right? If it's a smaller setup for 20, 30 workforce, which is a touchdown office, the criteria could be very different. But more importantly, how stable is the operator, whether he'll be in existence in 3 months or no? Because you're risking putting 30 seats there, which is only a touchdown office for maybe in one city. If you're looking at the model differently, where you're looking at an operator partner, multi-city, multi-location, then the criteria are very different. Even if you're looking at one city, location does matter. The question is, how much level of customization do you need? If you're really looking at a partner to create your value, your culture within the work environment, then the criteria is very different. So it depends from what the requirement brief is and what the occupier is really looking at. The criteria varies, and that's the fix. Because at one point of time, occupiers said, okay, we will do this hub and spoke. And companies have tried it pre-pandemic, saying traffic situations, I have my main campus in, say, one location of a city. I want to touch down in 3 residential pockets where majority of my people came. People were actually not kicked about going to those centers because they felt left out, because everybody was going back to the main headquarter location or the campus location. But the pandemics got everyone thinking as they're working remotely, because it's not just to go and collaborate. They've been having technical issues. So you don't want to get all your people back into that campus. You want to make sure you're setting up that hub where they can go pick up mail, they can pick up, interact, do short-term meetings, day meetings, book your, and people have situations at home where they cannot necessarily work full-time from home. They want to go into that touchdown space. They have say a client presentation, and you're worried about bandwidth at home. Then you go into your touchdown location, you have bandwidth, you're able to get what you need done. And if you want to interact with your IT tech folks, fix your laptop, etc., it's all done possible, right? So it really depends on what the need for and the criteria for is. But financial stability is important, because if you are putting seats in an operator's environment, you want to make sure, one, he's managing it properly from a wellness perspective, safety standards, the building statutory, whether he'll be operational in 3 months, whether he'll go bust, you don't know. So there are many criterias will have to be looked at when you choose a partner.
And just to add to it, Sumit, we recently partnered with Gensler to come up with a strategy on future of work. And what were the key things we discovered on the path was that the future of life is also playing an integral role in the future of work, because both life and work overlap. Yeah. And what we saw is that health and well-being will be the key pyramid which will be there. The key focus will be on health and well-being, and both life and work will evolve around that. So that is what is going to be. So whatever strategies we as leaders or developers or occupiers, how we are going to formulate, I believe these will be the critical parameters for us. And there's a lot of work being done in that domain, future of work. And as and when the studies come out now over the next 3 to 6 months, I believe that will give us more visibility and insights into how we are going to be behaving in the future times.
True, that's true. So gentlemen, we have run out of time. Thank you for addressing these questions. Over to you, Amit.
Sure. So everyone, it's been a fantastic 60 minutes with each of you. I personally have learned a lot and hope the participants have as well. Thank you for the participants to make this a success, and our panel for their candid views. We all hope that the path to recovery is robust and we can all get back to the new normal. So happy Diwali in advance to all the panelists and participants, and stay safe and stay happy. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.